Hi there. This is the 7th video in my new series, Taking Off the Leash, and there are going to be a total of 10 videos. It's 2 videos a week over 5 weeks. This is the 7th, and the series Taking Off the Leash is an introduction to my 12-month circle, Wild Woman Within, reconnecting to our forgotten knowing. And in that circle, I'll have a whole other video detailing it more, but in that circle, we're going to spend 12 months really deeply connecting to, exploring, understanding, embracing our whole self. Shadow light, powerfulness, powerlessness, masculine, feminine, right? All of that and everything in between, right? Today's video is about healing into wholeness. And what does that mean? What does that look like? Growing up in a patriarchal society and culture, we are taught to disconnect from ourselves, to disconnect from each other, to not trust our intuition. We're told all these stories about how we're not enough, how we're too much, how we don't matter, how we don't have value, how our bodies aren't right, how we don't say the right things, right? On and on and on and on and on. How there's everything wrong with us. That's what our culture teaches us. And that nothing we do, ultimately, nothing we do can fix that, right? We're just broken. We're just wrong. As we connect to all aspects of who we are, which means our shadow, which is where all those stories live, all those stories of how we're not enough, how we're too much, or yeah, right? That's where all those stories live, where our judgment of others lives. That's in our shadow, right? Our judgment of ourself is in our shadow. As we connect to those aspects of ourselves, as we look at them, as we understand them, as we are able to acknowledge them, and as we shine light on them, right? We become aware. We become aware, and through our awareness, we are able to do and be different, right? That's where the healing starts to happen, is in the awareness. Now, healing isn't just becoming aware, right? Becoming aware is like the very first step in the process. There is connecting to our emotions, right? There is engaging in our grief and our rage and processing it and feeling it and accepting it as okay, that it's not bad, that in fact it's valid and it's justified. That's part of the healing, right? So we become aware, we start to embrace and connect to and process through our rage and our grief. And it'd be great if we stopped there, but we don't. We don't get to stop there, right? And then we start to have self-compassion. And we start to learn to really love who we are and love ourselves and give ourselves a break and forgive ourselves for our own parts in our own harm. And we don't get to stop there either, right? And then we start to see the ways that we have unknowingly, unintentionally, and yet all the same, harmed others. And we get to unearth that and unpack that and figure out what that really means. What was our complicity in that? And we make amends where we can. And we do different where we can. And we continue that work. Right? And then we go back to the beginning and we connect to ourselves and we become even more aware. And we engage in our grief and our rage. And we engage our self-compassion. And we see more ways that we have caused harm to others. And we make amends and we do different as we can. And as is required. And on and on and on, right? This is lifelong work. I've been saying this over and over and over in this series. This is lifelong work. This is not something that you do in a day. This isn't something that you accomplish in a week. You're not going to get a certificate at the end of 12 months with me in Wild Woman Within that says, oh, you're aware and whole now. Like that's not how it works, right? It is a constant process. It is a constant understanding and learning and being open and curious and letting go of judgment of ourselves and of others. There's no, as soon as we're looking at another, and I talked about this a little bit in one of the other videos, when we're looking at another person and we're saying, oh, you're doing this wrong and you're doing that wrong and you're doing the other thing wrong, it's really a mirror. It's a mirror of how we don't feel we are doing enough, or the things we feel we do wrong or aren't getting right. But we can't see it in ourselves because it's too painful. So we see it in everyone else and we judge it and we comment on it and we tear other people down and we do it, right? All of us do. This is not a, like, I have yet to meet a person who has never in their entire lives judged another person. I haven't met them. In fact, most people judge other people or have judged other people a lot in their lives because that's what we're trained to do. We're trained that there's this hierarchy and that we need to climb, we need to strive and struggle and climb to get to the top of it. But we're never going to. It's not ours. Right? It's not ours to achieve. And the system's rigged that way. It's rigged for us to try and try and try and try and never get there. So as we struggle and work and ruin ourselves, ruin our bodies, ruin our psyches, ruin our spirit in trying to be good enough to try and prove our worth, system keeps saying, oh yeah, you've unlocked this level, but need to do this one to really be good enough. Yeah, that was okay, but this is where you need to go up here. I don't know, where's my camera? Up here, right? It's never ending. So at some point, right, and I talked about this in one of the other videos, at some point in our lives, we get to the point, many people get to the point of saying, fuck you, I'm done. I don't want to do this rat race anymore. And we start to figure out ways to stop. And we start to look within. And we learn to connect to our bodies. And we learn to connect to our spirit. And we learn to connect to our intuition. And we learn to balance out all the thinking that goes up on in here, right, with feeling. And I don't only mean feeling our emotions. That is a part of it for sure. I mean trusting our intuition. I mean going with our gut. I mean learning the difference between what is fear that's telling me I don't want to do this thing, and what is my intuition and my knowing saying don't do this thing. Right? So there's a difference. I don't want to. It might make me uncomfortable. It might cause change. It might, whatever the thing is. Versus, don't do this. It's going to be disastrous. Right? Our guts know these things. We know these things. We have knowing within us. It's not about being psychic or a fortune teller, you know. It's about knowing, just feeling and trusting and getting the sense of what a situation is about, right? Being able to know the difference between that fear and that knowing is huge. And sometimes you know it right away, and sometimes you don't. Sometimes you're not really sure until after the fact. We'll get there, right? We'll get to the place where we can just trust and we just know most of the time, more times than not, right? I, a few weeks ago, went to a day-long women's retreat, and it was an amazing experience. And it was truly, it was truly a life-altering experience. I don't want to say it was life-changing because nothing about my life has changed, but it altered me on the inside. Like there were huge shifts that happened in that day. Leading up to that day, right, the whole week before, I was having stomach issues. I was irritable. I was coming up with every excuse I could to not go to this retreat, right? I was wishing my children to get sick, right? I mean, that's how I was like, I don't wanna, I don't wanna, I don't wanna. Because I knew, my intuition knew, my body knew, my core knew, my spirit knew I was not going to be the same after this day. And I didn't know if I was ready for that. I can tell you I still don't know if I was ready for it. I don't know if we're ever ready for those life-changing, life-altering things, right? But I knew that that was my fear talking. That was my fear of the unknown. That was my fear of something big's going to happen for me. And I don't know if I can, I don't know. I don't know if I'm ready. I was ready. Because if you're not ready, it won't happen. If you're not ready, the shift won't happen, right? We can't force this work. We can't force this healing. It happens as we are truly ready, right? Versus when we think we're ready. Because when we think we're ready, that has nothing to do with anything. If we waited till we thought we were ready for something, nothing would ever happen. Like nothing would ever happen. We'd be sitting around waiting for our lives to occur, right? Um, so there's a difference between when we are actually ready for shifts and change and to hear certain things and to take certain teachings in and to truly embody something versus when our brain thinks we might be ready. Because we are, I've written about systems, right? And I've written about how systems are basically like Newton's law of inertia, right? It's in motion and it's going to stay in motion exactly the way it is until an outside force changes it, right? An object in motion remains in motion until an outside force is applied. An object at rest remains at rest until an outside force is applied. This is the same of our lives, right? We're going to keep on keeping on until there's a force that says, we got to do different. Sometimes it is a literal outside force, right? We see a news article that completely changes our view of the world, right? We meet a person who changes our view of the world, and it has us back up into a place of questioning our own selves and who we are and what we're about and how our ways of being have been. It can be a culmination of a lot of outside forces that finally, at whatever point, sink in and bubble up, and there's so much dissonance within us that we need to make change, that we need to do different, that we need to find our healing, and we need to do the work that we were meant to do in this world. I truly believe in women's work, and I believe that women's work is not only raising the next generations, right? That's part of our work. And when I say that, I don't mean that you have to have children yourselves. You know, my daughter has half a dozen unmarried or childless aunties, who are very important friends, very important to me and our family. So you don't have to have your own children to be raising the next generation, right? There's lots of different ways we do that. And part of that raising the next generation is doing our own fucking healing work so that we're not passing on wounds, so we're not passing on wounding. And maybe and part of that raising the next generation is guiding and helping others in their own healing too. Whatever that looks like for each of us, right? Whatever that healing work looks like for each of us, for others, to pass on to others. I know many different women who I consider to be healers, and they do it in a variety of ways, right? There are women who are fighting the shame beast and working towards body positivity, like in true ways where we truly connect to our bodies and love them and don't wait until we lose 10, 20, 30, 50 pounds to live our lives, right? There are women who help us focus on our writing and connecting to ourselves through our writing. There are photographers. There are, there's all the artists, right? There are social workers and social justice people and lobbyists and activists, and there's all kinds of ways to do this healing work. It's not, so when I talk about healing work, I don't mean what has become that sort of woo-woo vision of the white lady with the bundle of sage, waving it over you and you are healed. Sometimes that's part of your work, right? I will say that. And, our healing work as women in this world is greater than that. As women, we are the creators and we are the destroyers. We create life. That is ours. And what we give, we can take away. And I don't mean that in, matricide, we go off killing our children. I don't mean it like that. I mean that what we create in this world, what we have created so far, we have the power to tear down, to dismantle, to burn down, right? We have that power. We are creators, we are destroyers. Each and every one of us. Some of us are warriors. Some of us are sages. Some of us are magi. Some of us are alchemists, right? These are all archetypes, Jungian archetypes, right? Some of us are kings, some of us are queens, right? Some of us are wise women. The way we heal this world is individual to us. But we can't get to that place, not truly, until we do our own inner work. And we can do our own inner work and our outer world work at the same time. We have to do it at the same time, right? The more we heal ourselves, the more we can shift the things out in the world. And then we continue to heal ourselves. We continue to do this work, and then we continue. Okay, we're at 20 minutes. So, healing ourselves into wholeness. That's what this is about. It's about transforming the world. It's about transforming ourselves, and it's about creating a world where all humans are truly treated equally, where we can live in a space of love. So that's all for now. We'll get another video in a few days, and I will see you soon.